Welcome back to another video, my brothers. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some strategies to help you become a superb communicator. Being able to articulate yourself in a clear and concise manner will serve you well. And it's a skill that is overlooked. And just like any other skill, it's something that you get better at the more you do it. So hopefully the pointers that I share with you will begin leading you in the right direction. So let's get straight into it, man. The first tip I've got here is active listening. Communication isn't just about you speaking. It's also about you listening. And people will like you more if you sit down and listen to them. If you're the kind of person that always overtalks somebody, interrupts, you'll become very disliked. And people may not tell you this, but when they go away, they're like, I couldn't even get a word in. This guy's constantly talking over me. It's not a good trait. You'll have your turn. You know, oftentimes people that overtalk are nervous that they're not going to get everything that they want to get out of their mouths out. Okay, they're worried that they might forget something, so they interrupt over somebody. Or maybe they're just excited. But calm down. You'll say what you have to say. When the other person is speaking, that's why it's called active listening. Actively listen. What does that mean? Well, don't be doing this. Yeah, I get you, man. Yeah. That's not active listening. Active listening is maintaining eye contact and even asking a question back. So what do you think about that after they finished, not whilst they're speaking? So after they finish talking, and you'll know because there'll be a slight pause, then you can ask them a question. So why do you think that is? Why do you think you felt that way? And then listening again. Okay. That is active listening. So if somebody's maintaining eye contact with you and they're asking you a question after you've finished what you've had to say, they'll appreciate that. You know, oftentimes people just want to be heard. And people, sometimes you haven't even given anybody any advice, but because you've just listened to them, they end up liking you. This is why a lot of people go away from visiting the doctor feeling better, even if the doctor hasn't prescribed any medicine. Because what does the doctor do? Asks questions, then, tell me why that is. And then the doctor will just listen. Okay, so active listening is very important. Plus, if you don't listen, sometimes you miss out on some valuable information. If you're in sales, listening is even more important. Because the client, or the potential client, could have said something that you didn't listen to, that was very important. And because you didn't listen, because you're over-talking the client constantly, first of all, the client might think, what an idiot. He's here to see me and potentially do business with me, but he's not even letting me speak. So don't do that. But also, you might have missed out on a valuable bit of information that the client might ask you about later on. But because you didn't listen, you didn't remember. Okay? The next point here, the next strategy, is clear and concise language. So it's not all about using fancy words. I'm a big believer in improving your vocabulary, absolutely. But sometimes the best thing you could do is just use simple words. You know, one person that has done this very successfully is Donald J. Trump. So bigly. You know, obviously, look, he's funny because he uses very basic language, you know, which resonates with a lot of people because a lot of people can't process the fancy words that you're using. And look, they can be used in certain situations, and it does actually signify intelligence. The bigger your vocabulary is, you know, the more intelligent people perceive you to be. They've done studies on this. But if you're constantly using, you know, extremely complex terms with every person that you meet, most people aren't going to have a clue about what the fuck you're saying. Okay? Oh, someone's revving their car outside. Okay, so keep it simple. You know, if you want to use a fancy term, and it's appropriate within the conversation, then use it. Other than that, just keep it simple. All right? Clear and concise. The next strategy is pay attention to your non-verbal communication, which basically means maintain good posture. If your arms are crossed, that signifies that you're not open to have a conversation, that you're closed off, that you're maybe nervous, you're anxious. So open yourself up. If you're communicating on a stage in a public speaking event, don't be standing in the same spot with your hands in your pockets. Once again, what does that signal to the people that are watching you? That you're unsure of yourself. That this isn't normal for you. Maybe, look, and something, it might have been your first ever public speaking engagement, in which case, you know what, you'll have some nerves. But just going forward, bear that in mind. And also, don't be sitting there reading off a piece of paper like, what I'm going to be discussing next, because once again, what does that show? You don't know what you're talking about. And that's not really going to help you when it comes to potentially attracting opportunity to you. People want somebody who's able to speak about something that he's passionate about. So if you don't need any little prompt, then they know it's coming from here. It's coming from the heart. He's passionate about it. He could talk about it forever, for ages. Okay? So pay attention to your non-verbal communication. Open yourself up. On stage, one thing I used to do when I was doing my public speaking engagements was ask the audience questions. And it's interesting, that's a human nature. When you expose your palm, it's a sign of openness. You can trust me. I don't know why that is exactly. I haven't done too much research on the science behind it. But I used to say things like, how many of you here, by a show of hands, and I'd look for the hands, and people would lift their hands and be like, yeah, me, So yeah, your nonverbal communication is very, very important. All right? And which is also eye contact as well, as I mentioned earlier. Don't be staring at the ground, or especially if you're in front of somebody, you're presenting something to somebody who's sat right in front of you. Don't just be looking to the side of the room. Look at the person in the eyes. Okay, I'm not saying like that, like you're about to murder them, no. But, look at them in the eyes. It shows that you're involved in the conversation. Okay, that you're listening. And that you're also very interested, okay? The next technique is adaptability. And this is something that is very important in sales because everybody's different. You need to know who you're sitting in front of. Some people don't respond well to certain types of conversations. Some people are just straight to the point. Who are you? What do you want from me? Okay, so you've got to change your approach. Be adaptable. Be like a chameleon. Right? If you notice somebody's a bit of a straight to the point, no nonsense, doesn't want to talk about the weather, whatever, just sit down and get on with it. Keep it short and sweet. And this is somebody that you ideally don't want to be using fancy words with because they want you to cut to the point. Oftentimes, a lot of these people can perceive fancy words as a sign of dishonesty, which I don't understand, but some people are like that. They perceive you as a bit of a politician. Okay, he's talking his way out of this, or he's too sophisticated. That means he must be trying to trick me, So as Donald J. Trump does it, keep it very, very sweet and very straight to the point. All right. The next point is to ask the person in front of you questions if you don't understand fully what they want from you. So let me give you a scenario. Somebody's interviewing you, asking you a question, but the question doesn't make sense to you whatsoever. Instead of just pretending like you understand what this person is saying and just nodding your head, yeah, ask them to elaborate. You see Jordan Peterson do this very well. Okay? Jordan Peterson, if he doesn't understand a question, he'll first of all squint and lean forward to see or to try and get a better understanding of what this person is trying to say. You'll see him do that in his podcasts and interviews. But if he doesn't, he'll say something along the lines of, what do you mean by that? Elaborate. He's not going to sit there and try and pretend like he understands what was said. Because that can actually put you in a situation where it looks like you don't know what you're saying. or that you're uninformed, when in fact the question was just confusing. Some people are not good at asking questions. Some of these interviewers, these podcasters, are terrible at asking questions. Their questions don't make any sense. So if somebody asks you a complicated question, ask them to elaborate. What do you mean by that? Okay. So it's very important to do that, okay? The next thing I would say is strategic pauses as well. This is very important. And this actually ties into active listening a little bit, okay? But it's something that I want to use as a separate point. Strategic pauses is when, if somebody asks you a question and you want to think about that question, you don't just want to start vomiting information or words out of your mouth, because a lot of people do that. They feel the need to answer straight away. You don't have to. I'm not saying take 10 minutes of pure silence to think about what you're going to say. No, but 30 seconds, 45 seconds. You see Elon Musk do this pretty well. I don't know if you guys have seen some of his recent interviews, but when they ask him a question that he wants to think about, he'll pause. He'll pause, he'll collect his thoughts, and then he'll answer. And that is a sign of intelligence. Jordan Peterson does this as well. They gather their thoughts, they think carefully, and then they answer. And another thing as well, sometimes you don't know what you're going to say. Or maybe you're not experienced in something that somebody's asking you a question about, in which case be honest and say, I don't have much experience in that sector, so I'm not really qualified to answer that question. People will appreciate that. Once again, don't pretend to know everything. I'm very careful with this myself. If I don't know the answer, I'll put my hand up and say, you know what? I don't know too much about that. But what I do know about is, and then I'll relate it back to my field, or the things that I've gone through, some of my experiences, okay? So that's very, very important. So hopefully these tips so far have provided you with some value. It's one of those things, guys, where you have to practice your communication skills. It's not something that you can just write down and then become an excellent communicator. You know, as Jim Rohn says, I remember the first time I got up, my mind sat back down. Public speaking is fucking terrifying. I think from the research that they've done, they've said that it's a bigger fear for most people than death. And you know what? You have to experience it to know what it feels like. And the bigger the crowd, the more intimidating, of course, especially the walk up to the stage. Everybody's staring at you. Who the fuck is this guy, right? And then you get onto the stage and then you see all those eyes. And some people are recording you, so you see some flashlights or whatever. And you have to maintain your calm. And this leads me on to the next point. And that is breathe. Okay, breathe. Don't feel the need to rush what you have to say. Take a deep breath through your nose. Don't be mouth breathing. Through your nose. Okay? A big inhale. And then a slow exhale. Okay? You'll remember what you have to say. Don't be nervous. Especially if it's something that you're passionate about. The ideas and the points will come to your mind quite quickly. You just got to get into the mojo. Once you're into the mojo, you're hard to stop. Okay? That's when the passion starts coming in. All right? So, hopefully, these tips have provided you with some value. I believe I've covered everything. Okay? If you have received a lot of value from this video, be sure to give it a like, comment down below, let me know what you think. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.